coaching introduction to Reservoir East Primary School. 3 years ago we had a literacy coach was appointed to our school, and we decided that it would be a good idea to get the staff moving into each other's rooms.
Perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly.
When they were announced that we were going to have literacy walks, I think people were very apprehensive and a little bit concerned about the overall process. I think people thought that they were going to be under the microscope, so to speak. They would be criticised what they were doing in their classrooms.
It's scary. It's scary.
We decided to introduce literacy walks as a way that teachers could move from classroom to classroom and see how they were teaching and what was happening in their classrooms. So basically we had lots of team meetings and staff meetings, came up with protocols, and everybody was given a folder, and we all agreed to the protocols, and we started our literacy walks. We had one teacher walking with myself or my assistant principal and the literacy coach every week. And we went around to every classroom and we had a focus that we were looking at. It could have been questioning, summarising, and all the high reliability strategies. We'd go into the classroom, we'd have a sheet and we'd make our notes, then at the end we'd have a debriefing. It was then the teacher who was on the walk, it was their job to report back to staff and discuss our things that we had talked about. It was always done in a very positive light, and people were very happy to have people come in their room, and they were glad to share their knowledge.
Go away.
Literacy walks are great.
I found it very interesting, in that you got a snapshot of what other people were doing, and you could see different ways of doing things, how rooms were set up, what sorts of activities teachers did. We then found that it was a bit disappointing in a way, in that we didn't get to see the whole lesson. We only got to see a 5-minute or a 10-minute snapshot of what they were doing.
Staff decided at one staff meeting that they wanted a little bit more than this, that we had a couple of rounds and it was working well. But people felt that 10 minutes in each classroom wasn't long enough, so we changed it to a literacy walks minor and major focus. So we spent more time in some rooms, up to half an hour, and less in the others. Again, we had an agreed focus that everybody at the previous week's staff meeting would agree upon. Everyone knew what we were looking at. We came at the same time every week, and off we'd go again. So we had a couple of rounds of that, ran the same sort of format. The staff came to me and said, well, we need something a little bit, we'd like to have something else extra again. Could you give us personal feedback? So we've been mainly giving generic feedback about whole school strategy. Some people said that they would like personal feedback. So we decided people that wanted that was no problem, we did that. So they got a personalised letter and a meeting with one of the team.
Reservoir East literacy walks have been underway for about 3 years. They were very innovative at the beginning when they started. It was something that other schools in the network hadn't progressed to this level. The literacy walks, when they first started, were about developing relationships, opening classroom doors, sharing practices with teachers. And I went on a couple of those walks and was impressed with the way the dialogue between teachers about what they were doing and what they could be doing better next time. The walks have evolved into a much more rigorous structure with the questioning being a lot more explicit. The work is looking at using 5 E's as a practice of looking at the capabilities, of developing teacher capabilities, and teachers are using data to track student learning, and some of that discussion is coming through with the after discussion on the teacher walks. A number of schools in the network have come to visit Reservoir East and have adapted the process to their own schools, and are finding this a very successful model for introducing learning walk.
But at staff meetings and at PLT meetings, the level of professional dialogue greatly increased. and people were openly talking about their teaching practices and their colleagues' teaching practices and what was happening. And that was fantastic to see.
Literacy walks are great.
Of last year, again, we decided we needed to move on the next step because we'd done the literacy walks for over 12 months and we kept changing, and we needed something else to take that next further step. So what we did this time, we floated the idea of peer coaching. By this stage, nobody had a drama with people going into their classroom. They were quite comfortable with sharing ideas, practices with each other. And I guess the really fabulous thing that Literacy Walks had done was open up the classrooms. And what we decided at the end of last year, after much discussion again, we would cease Literacy Walks and go into peer coaching with a much heavier focus on looking at teaching practices in the classroom. This year we started that up. We have 3 teams of 4 teachers, and each team has a peer coaching session once every 3 weeks. One person presents a lesson and everyone else is the observer. Again, the team negotiates sometimes what they're going to observe, or sometimes it's a whole staff thing and all 3 teams look at the same thing. After each team has observed each other, then they have, again, in their PLT, they discuss and have a follow-up. We felt that whilst literacy walks were great and it got people comfortable and we kept upping the ante and what we were looking for and honing in on practice, that peer coaching has really focused us in on what we need to look at in what's happening in our classrooms. Teachers are very open and honest with each other, and we haven't had anyone complain about people coming into their classroom or people discussing what's been happening with their teaching practice.
Do or do not. There is no try.
You got me for an hour today because you know how last time I took Mrs. Humphrey's grade we talked about how teachers learn from each other, and it's my turn to present today. Okay? And what we're going to look at today is a very important thing. And this thing starts from a letter Q, and I reckon you've looked at it before. Because my name is Colbert, and I had a little chat to do beforehand, and I said, hey, just saving our